Hey y'all, welcome back to You Had Me at Black. It's Martina.
And I'm Britney.
We're sisters, and 10 years ago, we started this podcast.
Yes, the idea was to pass a mic to Black millennials to tell their true life stories in their own words.
And pass the mic we did to over 100 people.
Y'all downloaded their stories over 1 million times.
Hey!
Y'all ate.
Now, we are excited to be back behind the mic talking to y'all for a very special celebration.
Ooh, and what is that celebration?
Our 10th birthday!
You Had Me at Black turns 10 this year. To celebrate, we are counting down the 10 weeks leading to our birthday by rewinding 10 episodes that still live rent-free in our minds.
Yes, and today we kick off the countdown with the very first story to ever air on You Had Me at Black. It's called Lit as a Feather, and it comes from Jazz.
Now, when she was a kid, Jazz loved playing with fire. And you know how playing with fire goes.
It's all fun and games until something gets caught.
After listening, stick around to hear from Jazz about what her story means to her today and an update from us on what's next for You Had Me at Black.
Here's what happened.
I want you to breathe all this in, breathe all this in.
This is You Had Me at Black, the podcast where Black millennials tell true life stories.
So when I was 10 years old, I was thoroughly obsessed with anything that had to do with witchcraft, airbending, like controlling the elements and fire. And because of this fascination with spells and mastering the elements and storm and anything superhero, I played with fire a lot. I was a complete pyro. I can't tell you how many things I sat on fire in my room without my mother knowing. And so one day, I went to my cousin's house. I lived in Fairfield, which was about 30 minutes outside of Oakland, so a little small suburb. Anytime my mother had to work on the weekends, I always had to go to my Auntie B's house. Shag carpets, an orange velour couch, and nothing to play with. Bored out of your mind. She had basic channels, no cable. And so one day my cousins came over, two of my cousins, Renisha and Riashane. And my cousins were super spoiled. I mean, they could do anything and they would never get in trouble. And so one day we were hanging out in the living room and my cousin was like, let's go outside. So we go outside and these teenagers are smoking in front of my cousin's apartment. And so they leave a book of matches sitting there and they get up and they walk off. And my cousin, she grabs the matches and she's like, we should create a potion and like make a little campfire and tell stories like The Craft. There's a scene in The Craft where all the girls are sitting around the fire on the beach and they say this little chant, light as a feather, stiff as a board, light as a feather, stiff as a board, and they activate all their magic powers. So we are determined to reenact in East Oakland on a summer day at 1 o'clock in a dry grass field this episode of The Craft. So we get the matches and then we pile up all these leaves and we strike the matches, and none of us know how to strike matches. Even though I was a pyro, I would usually just take paper and burn it on a candlestick or something like that. Or my dad would often have lighters to burn his incense in the bathroom. So like there's a whole incense kit in the bathroom. So playing with the matches and we're trying to strike the matches. My cousin Renisha, every time she strikes a match, the wind blows it out. So then Riashane tries and she keeps burning out the matches. She's burning her finger, burning her thumb. So I was like, let me do it. And there's one match left. And I flick the match and the fire starts. So we're sitting out there and we're trying to do the light as a feather, stiff as a board, light as a feather, stiff as a board. And nothing happens. And an Asian lady next door starts yelling, you kids, you get from over there, you kids. So we're scared because we're not supposed to be outside, and two, we're playing with fire. So we go in the house, sitting there watching TV like nothing ever happened, and we smell like a lot of smoke. It almost smells like someone is barbecuing. So we go outside. When we open the door, there's a cloud of smoke coming towards the apartment. So We go back in the apartment and we sit there and we're waiting. And we're watching TV, and next thing we know, we hear a knock on the door. And so my aunt is in the back, asleep. Someone's banging on the door, and it's bang, 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 bang. Open the door. It's the fire department. Open the door. My aunt doesn't hear the knocking, so we just sit there and we don't open the door. We don't say anything. So by this time, we're super nervous. We think that we're going to get in trouble, and my cousin is, like, starting to cry. And so we're talking to each other. I'm like, no matter what, if somebody finds out, we're going to deny it. So we've already made a pact to deny it. 5 minutes later, we hear another knock on the door. Bang, 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 bang. Open the door. It's the Oakland Police Department. Open the door. So now we're hella scared. My cousins, they run to the back of the apartment to my older cousin's room, and they go in there. I'm running after them, and they close the door, and they lock me out. So I'm banging on the door, asking them to open the door. They don't open the door, and I'm sitting there, and I'm in the hallway freaking out. I'm super scared. So my aunt comes out. She answers the door, and the police, they're like, there's a fire. The apartment complex next to you is on fire. We need everybody to evacuate the building. So we all come out. We evacuate the building. We go to the front of the fire department. They're trying to put the fire out, and we're sitting there, and we're hiding behind my aunt. Miss Lee, the Asian woman, she comes outside. Like, she's pointing at us. She's trying to tell everybody it's the kids over there. But nobody can understand what she's saying. And so we kind of, like, creep more behind my aunt so they can't see who she's talking about. So everything's clear. We go inside. We sit there. And we're like, whew, we feel like we dodged a bullet. So my aunt goes back in the bag. She goes to sleep. And then my dad comes. Now, my dad is 5'11", nothing but muscle. He's a bodybuilder. He's about 200 and something pounds, super lean, real scary guy. So my dad comes in, and he wakes up my aunt. He's like, Beatrice, did you know somebody set the apartment complex next door on fire? Miss Lee said it was a bunch of kids playing outside, and that they set the building on fire. And so him and my aunt gets to talking about how they think it's the kids upstairs because the kids upstairs are always doing things. And then my dad stops talking to my aunt. My aunt goes to the back, and so we think we're in the clear. And then my Uncle Charles wakes up. He's a chain smoker, and he's like, anybody see my matches? Who took my matches? Anybody see my matches? So we're freaking out. My cousin Riashane, she's the youngest, she starts to cry. She's crying, freaking out. I'm trying to tell her, shut up, like, stop crying, you're gonna get us in trouble, stop being a punk. So my dad comes in the living room, and he's like, did you guys see your Uncle Charles's matches? Like, no, we didn't see the matches. I'm the first one to speak. No, we didn't see any matches. So my dad looks at us. He goes to the back. He comes out. He goes outside. I don't know what he's doing. He comes back, and he has Miss Lee at the door. We can't really make out what he's saying, but Miss Lee is, like, nodding her head up and down and pointing at us. So my dad comes back in, goes to talk to my aunt, and my auntie calls my cousins Renisha and Riashane. Renisha, Riashane, get your ass back here, get in the back. So they go to the back, and my dad's talking to me, and he's like, did you see the matches? Did you touch your Uncle Charles' matches? And I'm straight face, no, I didn't touch the matches. So my cousins come back, and they're crying, and I don't know what exactly happened to them. Then my dad asks us all again, like, who touched the matches? Did anybody see the matches? Of course, I deny it. No, I didn't touch the matches. My cousins, they're, like, all shaking and scared. So they just nod their head no. And they're crying. And he's like, well, if you didn't touch the matches, why are you crying? And I said, I don't know, Dad, but we didn't touch the matches. My dad goes to the back, and then he comes back. When he came out, he had the belt behind him. He went to the back to get the belt. And he says, let me see your hands. So Riashane, the youngest, she goes first. She put her hands out. He smells her hand. I still don't know what he's doing. He goes to Renisha. She puts her hands out, and he smells her hand. Then he comes to me, and he smells my hand. And then immediately he whips the belt from behind his back, picks me up off the floor. He has me hanging in the air. He grabbed me by my ankles, and he's whooping my ass. I'm crying, don't you ever lie, touching matches. I don't know what he's saying. It all sounds like a rant of curse words. And he puts us down, and he asks me again, so did you touch the matches? Of course, by this time I'm crying. I'm like, yes, I touched the matches. We were playing with the matches, and we set the apartment building on fire. So my dad, he lectures us about how somebody could have died, could have burnt down all the complexes. And then he goes to the back, and my cousins, they're laughing. They're, like, snickering and laughing the whole time. I'm mad at them because we made a pact that if they had any inkling it was us, then everybody would deny it. And my cousins, when I asked them, like, why'd you tell on me? They were like, well, we knew nothing was going to happen to us. And you would get in trouble, like you would get a whooping. They just told on me. And my dad whooped my butt. To this day, I don't play with matches. I don't play with matches. And for a long time, I was super upset with my cousins. Like, I didn't talk to them. I never wanted to go to my aunt's house again. Like, they were two cousins that I hated because they told on me when I set the apartment building on fire.
Do you remember recording this one?
I do. We were at a youth center in Berkeley, California, and they had this really tiny recording studio with the red foam to like help make it soundproof. And I don't even remember how I got access to it, but I think people will come to realize that is the story of how You Had Me at Black came to be. Just like folks offering help, me calling in favors, but I digress. What I remember about that day is being so excited, but also so nervous because Jazz was one of the first people that I recorded with.
Yeah.
So I had this idea for this show, and I started reaching out to people and asking if they wanted to tell stories, and she had said yes. And so I didn't really know what to expect. I hoped for something good, but I had no idea what to expect when we sat down and like the mic started rolling,
Yeah. And then we hit gold.
We did hit gold. What about you? What do you remember?
I remember listening to the raw file for the first time because we were working by Coastal.
Oh, yes.
And I remember being so excited to work together.
Yes.
We were new to podcasting. We were new to audio. And we were just trying to make sense of what the show and these stories would sound like.
Yep.
But Lit as a Feather was a story that it made You Had Me at Black go from this amorphous project to this clear vision that just clicked for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember feeling like Jazz and her stories sounded like something our cousins could tell us.
Yes. It made me think back to like all those weekends at grandma and mama's house and playing outside with our cousins and getting into things, and grandma and papa threatening to get the switch from the tree. And I feel like this story is just the epitome of what I always want You Had Me at Black to feel like. Something that's like familiar and nostalgic that makes you smile and makes you want to, call somebody up and just go down memory lane with them and relive memories with them.
Yeah, the story, I mean, it's such a chaotic story, but it feels cozy at the same time. Like you could just...
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you see everybody so clearly in the stories.
I feel like what makes it cozy is it reminds us of life before responsibilities.
Yeah.
It's just like the innocence of childhood when you have nothing to worry about except not getting in trouble.
Right. Your biggest fear is, am I going to get spanked?
Exactly. And I think I just love seeing Black childhood, the innocence of childhood. I just love seeing that. So that's what the story, means to me.
I love that. Let's hear from Jazz, what she thinks about her story 10 years later.
When I think back to that story, I laugh a little. At the time, it was about curiosity, going way too far, playing with matches with my cousins and being rebellious and learning some hard lessons the old school way. We definitely got a whooping. I mean, they got like a pat on the butt, but I for sure got a whooping. And, just not figuratively, but like being burned in the process. But listening to it again years later, what stands out to me is that fearless and curiosity I had as a child. I knew there could be consequences, but something in me was always willing to take the risk just to see what would happen. That rebellious spirit was definitely alive and well. Now that I'm a mother of 3, hearing that story again actually softened me. It reminded me of all the silly, wild things I did as a kid and how children are just figuring out the world in real time. My kids have their own versions of those shenanigans, and remembering how I was or who I was helps me meet their mistakes with a little more patience, a little more compassion, and sometimes even a little humor. So looking back, I probably tell that younger version of myself, curiosity is powerful, but maybe put the matches down. And I tell her that the same bold spirit that got her into trouble sometimes would eventually become that same spirit that helps her create and lead and tell stories.
This story first aired on our pod in May 2016. It was the very first story to hit our feed. I think back to having the idea for this show and being excited, but also being so nervous and not being sure if it's something that people would want to listen to, if we'd be able to make something that people even cared about, and pushing through the doubt and just saying, fuck it, let's try. What Jazz said about the curiosity and rebelliousness of being young, You Had Me at Black only exists because the idea was given to me when I was 26 years old. I had a different kind of boldness back then, a different kind of energy, and even a different kind of anger. 2016 was the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. I was also just a few years out of college and navigating my first jobs and experiencing myself being perceived as a Black woman in ways that I never had before. And all of that deeply radicalized me. It forced me to make decisions about how I showed up in the world and what kind of spaces I wanted to exist in. And it led me to interrogate the kind of life I wanted for myself and how to make that happen. In many ways, You Had Me at Black was the beginning of me building a world that I wanted to live in. But perception came up again when I tried to grow this thing. Here we had this really cool container where we see and celebrate ourselves as we truly are. But the folks holding the money bags, they had limited perception of who we are and what this could be. And it was either shrink to fit their limitations or let this vision go. And the curious, rebellious, young part of me thought, there has to be a better way. A way to build a home for our stories, one that serves us, the people who are telling them and the people listening, a home that we can control and that we sustain. Because at the end of the day, the only perception that I actually care about is y'all's, our listeners, our storytellers, our community. I don't care about corporations, and especially don't care about confused white folks. So that's what I have been working on in the years since we've been off the air. A way to rebuild that is based on what our community has versus what we don't. And I've been sharing the blueprint over on our Substack. Now is the time to move from blueprint to foundation. So on our 10th birthday, which is May 18th, we begin laying the brick. You Had Me at Black is launching the Patron Circle, a way to financially contribute towards this rebuild and seed a new future for You Had Me at Black. I'll be sharing more in the weeks ahead, but in the meantime, visit youhadmeatblack.com to subscribe to get updates and stay in the loop. Until next week, peace.
This special Rewind episode was written and produced by Martina Abrahams Ilunga and me, Brittany Abrahams. We created You Had Me at Black, and Martina is also our executive producer. Lit as a Feather was produced by Adiza Egan, Deshauna Scott, Martina, and myself. Andrew Aforjabe helped out behind the scenes. Special thanks to Jazz for sharing her story and reflection.